Hi, everyone. Welcome back to what is now branded as Breakfast at Tiffany's. This is our first branding. Excited to have you back. I'll give a quick campaign update, and then we're going to get right into questions, some really meaty questions, and I think questions that are incredibly important. And I'm very appreciative of the person that submitted these questions. They actually all came from one person. A quick campaign update since we last spoke. Team Fisher is complete. We now have three at-large candidates and a six-ward candidate to run for Jen Tino's remaining term, two-year term. So we had Liz Urtecho, as you know. We had former Councilman Dave Mello. We've recently added Carter Kraft as our last at-large candidate. Carter is someone that I have known since probably about 11 years ago, since before I was on the city council, when we were both involved in the inception of Rebuild by Design. We were on what they call the Citizen Advisory Group on what is a federal project. And Carter brings a breadth of experience in the resiliency environmental space, as well as just working with some of our more vulnerable populations in Hoboken. He's also on the Hudson County Open Space Advisory board as well. So he just brings this like great, combination of experience to round out our team. Diane Imus is running for the sixth ward. Diane's a longstanding friend of Jen. She's lived here for about 35 years, raised her three kids here. She is she has done a lot within our community. She was most recently on the Hoboken Arts Council for several years and was one of the large voices between all the murals that we now see across the city. She's also has been a volunteer with CASA, which is Corner-Pointed Special Advocates that work with foster children. And she could not be more excited and more committed to stepping into the big shoes left by Jen, to bring the same like service with a heart to sixth ward residents. So I couldn't be more excited. And in general, I think the reception that we're getting from people is we just have such a great experienced team that has no political agenda, right? We're just here, we're all, we've all lived here a long time, from 21 years to 35 years. We're all just at this point where we really just want to give back to our community and do the best that we can to make it better for everyone. So it's really exciting knowing that day one, when Team Tiffany is elected, we are going to be able to make immediate handprints on our community that will benefit everyone's quality of life. We're bringing we're committed to like a residents first approach agenda, and it's pretty exciting. So with that, I will hand it over to Al and we'll get this baby started.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do want to mention the kickoff we had last week for Diane and Carter. Amazing, huge turnout, and just hearing those like personal anecdotal stories about from the individuals who came, who know them personally, and were just so effusive with their praise about their experience and their heart.
Yeah.
Speaks to the team you've been able to put together.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
All right. Well, great. Campaign's going great. But for the Tuesdays at Tiffany thing specifically, you reached out
Breakfast
and
at
asked
Tiffany's.
folks. Breakfast Tiffany, this was a
Yes, we're
thing,
rebranding,
and it says it
rebranding.
literally right there.
Yeah, it's okay.
Um,
We have to get used to it.
yeah. For Breakfast at Tiffany's, you reached out to the community and asked for questions, and we just got from one of our dedicated listeners some very good questions. So I wanted to run down as many as we can fit in here, because they were just like very thoughtful, well thought out questions that I thought I certainly have heard you speak to each of these things, but I think our listeners would appreciate hearing you espouse on these. So without further ado, first question, Tiffany, you have built your reputation on independence. As mayor, how do you plan to turn that independence into influence, especially when leading a fractured council?
So, first of all, as mayor, I hope not to have a fractured council. I hope to really just have a more collaborative relationship between City Hall and the City Council. So that's part of, I think, what I think will be the success in bringing a different kind of mayor, different kind of government to City Hall. Independence is is actually like fundamental to good leadership, right? Independence means not looking for rubber stamps to ideas, always looking for the best possible idea and trying to get, support around those great ideas and not being held to special interests, not being held to political ambitions, something like that. So to me, the greatest strength going into being mayor is actually bringing that independence to City Hall, and I can't be more excited about it.
Awesome. Good answer. So, two, your leadership style has been rooted in opposition against overdevelopment, against questionable spending. What does a proactive leadership under Mayor Fisher look like?
Yeah, so I actually am not against, I am not anti-development. Overdevelopment is a phrase that I think is often misused. As a city, we have we have development areas all across the city. And I have been very supportive of responsible development. Property owners have rights to develop within our zoning, and we can't really take those rights away. Could we completely downzone the city? Maybe, but we would be sued left, right, and center. It just wouldn't happen unless we had some sort of good reason other than quality of life concerns that residents have to stop it. So, really, it's about responsible development and watching irresponsible development happen. A great example is we have we spent years putting together the plan for the north end of Hoboken, right? Just this kind of vacant area filled with former industrial buildings, kind of in the northwest corner of Hoboken. And myself, former councilman Peter Cunningham, Councilman Jim Doyle, even current Mayor Robbie Bala, Councilwoman Giattino. We spent years on putting that plan in place. And what we wanted that plan to be was a series of buildings, not giant full city block bases, but each one of these big city blocks having two separate buildings on it. So it felt more livable as you were walking around street level. We insisted on having the green circuit go through there. We insisted on having open space in between the buildings. And importantly, we sized the heights to ensure that developers could get a reasonable return, but still not only cover the costs of their buildings, but also cover the cost of all of the infrastructure needs in the area and the 15th Street light rail. So it was a well thought out plan. And what happened along the way is our mayor kind of just, chose a few times to just ignore the parameters of this plan. And it was funny because after doing that a couple times with just ginormous buildings that had nothing to do with the plan and really catered to special interests, one of the developers came with a proposal for their lot that basically conformed to the plan. And I said to them, I'm so surprised. Like, why are you doing that and not asking for a variance to the plan? And they said, because it's a good plan. We can make plenty of money off of it and it's good for Hoboken. And you know what? We had two developers conform completely to the plan, slight minor differences. We have a third developer that is going to be a little bit higher than what the plan calls for, but we have some community givebacks that are favorable to the city that they're paying for, which is exactly what responsible development is. It's much more strategic thinking as opposed to opportunistic thinking to either hit a headline or cater to special interests. So I have always been strategic, and you can see my handprint in particular in the North End, and I will bring that exact type of strategic thinking to City Hall as it relates to spending. Really, it is taking a fresh look at the operations of the city and not continuing to do what we've always done, but kind of relook at how we're staffing teams to get the best out of our teams to inspire the people in City Hall. A lot of really hardworking people that want to deliver, public servants that really want to deliver for the city, but just need better leadership and maybe better structure. A good example is thinking about how our parks are managed, right? Like, how do we, with so much so much additional open space, how do we effectively keep our parks and open space maintained with the teams that we have? Maybe we just restructure a little differently and not have to incur just additional costs to do it, but really just can think smarter. So that's how I'll always think strategically. It's my background. I have a advanced degree in strategic management. I was a CFO. I was an executive, and really bringing a strategic focus to the operations of the city will be a huge part of my leadership.
It's that thing you keep saying, right? Like putting people in the front of every decision that you make. Right.
Yes, it literally needs to be a residents first approach and in everything. And so when you're thinking strategically for the city, you're thinking about Hoboken, its residents today and the future, and how it's going to grow and how the various components of the city all like work together. But it always has to be from a residents first standpoint.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is a good transition because, and it leads us into a hot topic of the time. You've spoken about fiscal responsibility for years. We know that's true. What is one area of Hoboken's current financial structure that you believe is unsustainable, and how would you fix it without compromising services?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's really important for residents to understand is that the majority of our costs fall into kind of three buckets, right? We have labor and all the costs associated with labor, including healthcare. We have debt service, which relates to all the investments that we've made in open space infrastructure. And we have kind of the operations of City Hall, right? All of the, whether it's our planning department, our tax department, our finance department, the administrative side of it. The administrative side, and there's two components to kind of the operations of City Hall. One is the labor, and the other is like the costs of paper supplies, the costs of, certain contracts that we have to have, legal costs, et cetera. So really the part that is not sustainable is committing to large projects without having any idea what they're going to cost and what they're going to cost like in the future. The city, since I've been on the council for a decade, we've never had a future forecast ever. And I've asked a bunch of times, and the city, they said we don't have the resources, we just don't know how to do it, we don't do it, which is it's not the right answer. We absolutely that I've done financial forecasting my entire career for companies. It is not rocket science. We have all of the pieces to be able to do that, and we should have an idea of what we think taxes are going to do, over a period of time. So in general, I think we need to take a step back before we commit to any additional projects. I do think we need to complete the projects that have been promised to our community. We funded a few of those, but I think we need to pause and take a step back and, before we commit to anything else without having a full understanding of what the costs are. Then second, I do believe that in terms of labor costs, really it comes down to the healthcare costs, right? We're seeing kind of runaway costs across the country. It's one of the biggest challenges that the entire United States has, and we have that same issue locally. And our healthcare costs are determined based on the plan design and the administration of those plans. And the plan design sits within our union contracts, and the administration of that plan sits within the administration. So we can relook at the administration of the plan and making sure that we are getting the best possible pricing on all parts of our plan. We can then meet with our union leaders and sit down and talk about a better plan design that still allows our employees to get, the coverage that they need, but minimizing their costs as well as costs to taxpayers. It's not an easy, discussion. It's not an overnight discussion. Changing or relooking at the administration of our plans is something we can do immediately. But the unions, as I think we've talked about before, we just committed to an 8-year union contract for our lower ranking police officers. I did not vote in favor of that contract. And, so we can't make a plan design or any type of change to the healthcare in that contract very easily without reopening the contract. But we have all the other contracts we can potentially, address that issue. So I would say the simple answer is healthcare costs and in terms of what's not sustainable and kind of committing to these big, huge projects that carry significant costs attached to them are the two things that are not sustainable that we really need to see a change.
Yeah, but I think it bears mentioning that, like re-highlighting what you said before, which is that there is no entity within the city that's doing this exploration of the budget. That's you because of your
Yes,
background, right? You're the
yes.
one looking at these spreadsheets and identifying like things that other like it just wouldn't be acknowledged or
What I
planned for otherwise.
Well, What I would say is we actually have some very good people in the finance department. I just think that they either don't have the tools or, haven't really been asked. We haven't had a leader that's been focused, that brought like a private sector finance focus to the role. And, it's the difference between like a corporation and like the private sector and the public sector, is often that the, private sector, you're interviewing for someone that brings the very specific and relevant skills to the role. In the public sector, you're electing someone that you hope is going to be able to do, the best job and may or may not have, a perfect alignment of what is needed from an operations standpoint and what skills the person's bringing to bear. And I do think that in this case, because we have a big financial challenge in 2026, that we really do need someone that is like a financial specialist in the role, to help navigate through, the challenges and be able to understand like what a 5-year forecast looks like and how we, what we need to do to address that. And I think that when I look at the landscape of mayoral candidates, I really feel like I'm the only one that brings it to the table. There's one other candidate that talks, that says, that they're a finance person. And, there's a difference between being like an equity derivative trader on Wall Street and, managing cash, and having someone who has done financial forecasting for, entities, that have expenses and revenues, et cetera. And I think that's a big point of difference between myself and the other candidate.
I think you're right. That's the kind of background we need, a different kind of mayor.
A different kind of mayor, exactly.
So, talking about finances, bringing it to the personal level, the question is, many residents feel squeezed between rising costs and limited housing options. What's your plan to address affordability in a way that actually moves units, not just promises them?
Yeah, I mean, affordability is really the issue that we hear in almost every room, at every income level, right? We have people, clearly that have been here a really long time, whether they're seniors in their homes or on fixed income, they can't afford the taxes, or the people that have lived here a long time in the same apartment and have, are in a rent controlled apartment that have allowed them to have a rent at an affordable level, or they're people that are paying a closer to market rent, and are not in a building with rent control that, are seeing year over year increases in the 25-30% at all pricing levels, and they're being effectively pushed out, of their apartment, or families that have lived here, and are looking for a 3 bedroom, and we just don't have affordable 3 bedrooms. We don't have enough 3 bedrooms, family size units in Hoboken. We certainly, the ones that we have are not affordable to the average person. So, there's so many issues with that, and we hear it all the time. This is where, what I would say, this is probably the most complicated issue. And, when you're in a situation where your, property values, there's so much pressure on your property values because we're a victim of our own success, right? We're an incredible, charming community. We have this strong sense of community that people want to move into. We've seen, improvements in all of our local schools that are really attracting families to stay here longer, age in place. And when demand exceeds the supply of housing, we see property values go up. And there's a tremendous amount of pressure, right? Developers don't want to, develop market rate housing, or I'm sorry, they don't want to develop affordable housing. They only want to develop market rate housing. And this is where, what is the government's role in all of this? Well, the government's role is to ensure that we're developing affordable housing at state level mandates. And we're doing that. We have, roughly in round numbers, 6,000 residential units that are, either approved or about to be approved, that will come online in the coming 5, 6, 7 years. Currently, they have about 700 affordable, units, and they're being built. So these aren't like, promises. These are, every one of these large developments has somewhere between 10 and 20% that are affordable units that are being built. What I would say is over the last several years, we have not, as a city, really kind of pressure tested, trying to make sure that we're thinking about affordability across the entire income spectrum. So these tend to be on the lower income side, which, gets very low income, as well as people that are starting, their career, maybe people that are in just lower income, producing careers, kind of middle income, salaries, but we're still missing kind of a gap in the middle. And I think we need to revisit either some of these developments or all of the new developments to make sure that we are, expanding the 10% to a greater ratio and adding workforce. We hear workforce housing, but it's really like middle class level housing, into the mix. And, in we definitely, no matter what, need to enforce our rent control laws. This is something that I have championed with Jen Giatino from the very beginning, that we need to put more resources in the rent control office, something that our current mayor resisted for a number of years. We put money in the budget, but they never hired more people. They never, committed to digitizing and upgrading all of their computer systems, IT systems, to be able to actually know the inventory and effectively, more easily and efficiently manage rent control within Hoboken. They only recently started doing that, but it just has never been a big priority on the operating side. It's been headlines. We've heard those headlines that have been convenient over the last couple of years, but we really haven't seen the operational side of it improve. So I think investing and expanding our rent control office, I think committing to expanding the set aside percentages for inclusionary affordable housing in the remaining developments that we have. I think we need to consider, and then we just need to get these buildings built, right? We need, of the 6,000 units that are coming online, they're like I said, they're either approved, they're starting, but we need to get out of our own way, and we need to not, we've had an administration that is kind of slow rolled a lot of developments for no good reason. What we need to do is just allow these developers to, that have their projects approved, to get them built, and let's get these units online as quickly as possible. Lastly, sorry, and this is hugely important to me, we need to get the Hoboken Housing Authority rebuilt. That is, this is a federal, it's a federal sponsored project, private-public partnership, to do that. They have an approved plan. And, this is a way to just improve the living conditions of some of our lowest income residents in our community. And we just need to make that as a priority. We all share the same backyard, and we just need, as a city, to do everything we can to be supportive of that. This isn't a City of Hoboken funded project, but what can we do to bring resources, supportive services to bear, to just members of our community to be involved in that project, to get it done as quickly as possible. I think this is one of my top priorities, to do whatever we can to support the team that is moving that ball forward. So
Yeah, one of the things I appreciate about your answer is that it's very comprehensive. You're not just looking at one end of the spectrum or the other. It's that holistic approach you bring to each piece, right?
yeah,
Each issue.
yeah.
All right. So, the next question, which I think is very apropos, when elected, what policy or initiative would you define your first year? The one thing residents could point to and say, this happened because of Tiffanie.
Yeah. So I would say there's kind of three things. I know they only asked for one thing. One is just getting in and running the city better, no matter what, and that's something that people aren't going to easily measure. But the source of improving everything in the city is just running the city better, having residents approach, empowering the team to accomplish what is necessary to meet the needs of our community. That's not being done right now, right? We just have a lot of projects, a lot of tasks. People are running around just trying to keep the city together, but what we don't have is a strategic approach to running our city, and that's what we need. But kind of measurable things. I mean, day one is curbing the e-bikes issue, right? Like, say at the crux and prior, the not the crux, at the crux of my platform, and what's most important to any elected official at the end of the day, is just safety. It's pedestrian safety, it is personal safety, it is public safety, it is street safety. Like, we need to make sure people in our community feel safe. And you know what? Most people feel safe most of the time, but we've seen that fracture a little bit, and we still have a huge issue with e-bikes. And we need to solve that. We don't need to just criminalize it, but we do need to have we need the test and vest ordinance enforced. We need to get those vests out there. We need to work with these delivery people and understand, like, what issues do they have? How do we get them in, have them maybe corral in one location, get them some of the services. Maybe we need public bathrooms or things where they can, refresh during the day. Like, this is an important amenity to the people in our community. We just want to make sure that it's safe. And I have an entire policy on this issue. You can go to my website, tiffanyforhoboken.com, click on issues, and you'll see it. But that's a number one priority right when I hit the office. The second one for the end of the year is, I would say, like the sexy, thing that people are looking for, that is tangible, that they can look to, that we don't have, that we need, is we need to have a recreation center like underway, right? We've had so many promises from so many mayors. Oh my God, I'm going to deliver a pool. I'm going to do this. This mayor over 8 years probably has had no less than a dozen headlines saying he's going to build a pool. It's never happened, right? And it's not because he may not have been willing and wanting to do it. It's just that they didn't have a focus on literally the operational side of the city and getting, sitting down and rolling up our sleeves and saying, what do we need to do to get this done? And that is what I'm going to start day one. By the end of the first year, I want to have an approved plan in place that we are going to be able to execute on. So by the end of my first term, by the end of year four, we either have, a new rec center has been built, or, it is significantly underway. And so that to me is like the sexy, I say sexy, but the visionary thing that I think residents want: a promise, but a commitment, and someone who has the ability to deliver that. My whole background is project management, real estate development. Like this is my bailiwick, right? This is understanding what is necessary from a land use standpoint, what the city needs to do to get this done, get it developed, and I'm going to make it happen. And I will tell you that there isn't any other city council person that knows how to do this.
You're going to bring a pool to Hoboken, Tiffany?
I'm gonna bring a rec center and a pool to Hoboken, because it's not just a pool. We want a pool, of course. It's August, right? It's hot, it's August. People are looking at Weehawken saying, how did they get a pool? You know how they got a pool? Because Mayor Turner said to the developer there, if you want all the approvals, Hart's Mountain, that owns all of those buildings in the area, if you want to get the approvals for all of those different buildings as part of the master plan for the area, you have to deliver us a rec center and a pool. And that's what they did. It was a very strategic discussion around the entire area. And we don't have that. We do everything on a headline driven basis, a building at the time, and we've missed our opportunity. We have a land use crisis in Hoboken, and we never get to say, we'll take those 10 acres out by the highway and build our rec center. We don't have 10 acres. We have to work within the constraints of what we have right now and get it done. But we also need, in addition to pool, you know what we need? We hear about this all the time. And because my team has just a bunch of like tweens, teens, and college age students, is we're hearing about the lack of services for our teens. Like we need a proper rec center where teens can go and like hang out, right? We need a senior place. Like it's not just teens. We hear from seniors that we don't have adequate services for our seniors. Like we need to be thoughtful about all of our recreational needs. So is it a pool? Of course it's a pool. Is it, space for recreation for people that are being currently underserved? Absolutely. Is it a place for the Hoboken Family Planning Clinic that has operated for, decades, providing critical services to low-income families in, our region? Absolutely. Is it for, some of the city services? Like it's a building, it's a multi-purpose building, but we need to sit down and just do it. Stop talking about it and actually do it. So priority number one. I have a lot of
Young
priority
mayor.
number ones, by the way.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, next question. So, you've challenged campaign finance practices across the race. If elected, how will you institutionalize the level of accountability inside City Hall?
Listen, this is such an easy question. It's transparency, 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 transparency. If I said it enough, right? Like first of all, we need to disclose whenever, on every single piece of legislation that is coming before the city council. I am going to disclose if I've received any campaign donations from anyone that is part of that, even if it's $200. If a lawyer has given me $200 and it doesn't show up on a campaign report somewhere, I'm going to say that lawyer gave me $200. So it is transparent, out there. I'm going to ask the city council to do the same thing. I can't, I don't create laws. All I can do is set an example and hope that they follow. But that really, at the end of the day, is probably the most critical. So we have an understanding of special interests within our community, and if there's any ties between special interest donations and actual actions. And, we used to have very strong pay to play laws, and the state completely, the Governor Murphy and the state legislature completely undid them and effectively made legal again pay to play. It allows special interests to make large donations, and it allows legislators to act in ways that, well, just to be able to vote on legislation that may impact those special interests, which isn't okay, right? We had some of the strongest in Hoboken. We under Mayor Zimmer, they put in place campaign finance laws that effectively tried to keep big money out of our local elections, right, and really limit it to friends, families, neighbors, et cetera, to provide support for our local elections. So as mayor, I'm just not going to do anything like that. Like if you shine a light on everything and you're just committed to transparency on everything, then you should be held accountable for all of your choices. And that's the best you can do. And you just own up to your choices. That's all you can do. So that's how I will address it.
100%. And I've seen it. It's certainly stark contrast from some of those other mayoral candidates who are out there, taking advantage, I think, of some of these the gutted campaign finance
Listen,
laws.
we know, like Councilman Russo, right? We know that he has over 100,000 as of the last elect from one developer in Hoboken. Happens to be the largest property owner and developer in the city of Hoboken that currently has a large portfolio of market rate rents that should be subject to rent control, and as of right now are not being challenged, right? So when we're in City Hall, do we think that, if Mike Russo becomes mayor, do we think he's going to, make those market rate units become rent controlled, under rent control? Or is he just going to go with the developer and their view on that? And, he was given $100,000 from that developer, right? Like we need to decide, we need to know all the time. People should know all the time what side of the table are their elected officials sitting on? Are they sitting on the public side of the table that elected them to office? Or are they sitting on the side of the table of the special interests? It's that simple. I will always sit on the side of the table of the people that elected me into office. So,
Hoboken elections funded by people who live here. Who'd have thought? And
yep. And friends and family. I do
highlights.
like my dad has been donating, to be fair.
But you, as of the last campaign finance filing, you were the candidate who had the most local donations of any of the candidates.
I did. I
So,
did.
not only talking the talk, but walking the walk. I think that's
Exactly.
important.
Yep. It is
And the
important.
fact that you're willing to push all like others to be accountable by the lawsuit that you mentioned, I think is it's proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
But now that we've talked about campaign finance, the mayor cannot govern in a vacuum. So how will you work with council members who may not share your vision or your style?
You know what? My vision is let's talk about vision first. My vision is for, the best ideas and best outcomes for Hoboken, and I'm indifferent to where they come from. So if someone is, potentially politically averse to me, but they have the best idea, I'm going to want to embrace that idea. I'm going to want to sit down. I'm going to want to make it happen, and I'm going to want to give that person like all the credit for it, right? Like a rising tide lifts all boats, and that's just what I generally believe in. So and I've always managed that way, and I've always given credit where it's due. And as a longtime manager in the private sector, that's always been important to me is celebrating the best ideas in the room. And sometimes I'm the one that has them. But often I'm not the one. Often I'm surrounded by people that are smarter than me on very specific topics. And I just want to hear what their ideas are, right? I want to surround myself with people that always have better ideas than me. In terms of style, you know what? All I can do, like, I feel like my style is to be transparent, to be open, to be inclusive. And if people don't want to be as open and inclusive, um, it's a shame, and we'll make the best of it, right? Like what I want to do is I want to significantly improve the relationship with the city council. And, I just put out a trust, transparency, and financial responsibility policy, right? It's basically two different groups. One's financial responsibility with, I think, 17 different actionable items to lower our taxes, be more responsible with taxpayer dollars, and just, be just more responsible fiscally. And then another three of actual items
That
are,
document's on the website. People could go check it
it
out.
is, it
It's
is,
amazing.
and it's long. It's long.
Yeah.
But no one, people wouldn't expect anything less from me. But it's long also because I just have the experience and I think strategically and I think about like all the things that we get to do that are not being done right now because I'm leveraging my private sector experience into, a public environment. But the other half is trust and transparency. And I have 13 actionable items, but a whole section on just improving the relationship with the city council, right? Like one of the things that irritates the living crap out of me all the time is every single time the mayor puts out an announcement about some sort of event, it says the mayor and the city of Hoboken. It doesn't say the mayor and the city council. The city council that approves the budget, approves the events often, approves spending. Like he's never been collaborative with the city council. And I know that sounds silly, but at the top of every one of my posters, it's going to say the mayor and the city council of Hoboken and are bringing you the following. I'm going to go to every single city council meeting and I'll sit there and I'll be available to answer any question that anyone has. We don't have caucuses. A lot of legislative bodies have caucuses, and a caucus is a public meeting where the elected officials talk about the agenda items first, so they get comfortable with what's on the agenda, and then the actual council meeting is the meeting for the public where you vote on the agenda. You kind of answer questions, of the public, but you've already kind of discussed the issues. And because we don't have that, we end up having like these political debates, at city council. So this is something the city council can do or I can do. I'm committed to having, the Monday, maybe it's the Monday before every council meeting to have a 2 hour caucus where we'll make it public. The entire city council is willing or is invited. The public's invited, and I'll just walk through the agenda. I'll walk through, why are we doing this, contract for, I don't know, for something environmental? Like, why are we doing a contract for, maintenance or plumbing, and I can walk through everything so people understand like what's happening. We'll also put a legislative summary, like a layperson summary on every legislative item that is on the city council agenda so people can have an understanding of like what it is. It doesn't have to be a tome. It could be 3 sentences. Jersey City does this on all of their council agendas. So I think there's just so many, ways to have a better relationship with the city council so it's more collaborative on every single issue. And I'm excited about that, right? It takes a village and it takes that partnership between the executive role and the legislative role and the judicial role and the public safety role to like, deliver for Hoboken. And to me, that is, fundamental to my being a different kind of mayor for Hoboken.
And that piece about having the mayor and the city council, small thing, but changing the tone is definitely a welcome thing. Because
Yeah,
you and I were talking earlier about how the combative tone disincentivizes good people from serving.
it does.
Yeah. All right. So on serving, your own story, you represented one ward for nearly a decade. So how will you expand your reach and earn the trust of communities you have not represented before?
So I've already done that. The nature of being a ward council person is, we get all of the calls for things that are happening specifically in our neighborhood. At large, don't get those same calls. Although I would, we know that Councilman Jabor is on Hoboken Moms and gets a lot tagged there. For everyone's benefit, I'm not allowed to be on Hoboken Moms, so I can't respond. Even though I get tagged, I can't respond. But over the last decade. I have sent 400 emails that have go citywide, and only about 28% of my emails go to the second ward. So the rest of it goes citywide. So I've been communicating with people citywide on citywide issues, right? Like I've had my handprint on so many things that impact our city citywide, including, I chair along with Councilman on my ticket that kind of initiated the investment in infrastructure in our water mains, citywide. I was the one that restructured our water contract with Suez and released almost $35 million of savings for Hoboken residents that we were allowed to invest into our water system. I have worked on had a big handprint on the Northwest Resiliency Park. In the Northwest Resiliency Park originally was presented as 100% a 6-acre 100% passive park. What are you kidding me? Like we have so much needs for recreation space and not a passive park that I forced the conversation that resulted in having the multi-use field there, as well as the basketball courts. So I've really and I've supported, Southwest Hoboken Park expansion. So I've had, and I have led every conversation on the budget except 1 year for the last decade to bring our tax, the mayor's proposed much higher tax increases, and I have led to bringing those tax increases down every single year, except one. And so I have always thought strategically about Hoboken while still handling the issues in my backyard, which is the second ward. And I'm just going to expand on that. I'm going to all of the focus in the second ward, most of it's been like pedestrian safety. We've done more in the second ward in terms of pedestrian safety than any other ward in any other area in the city. Pedestrian safety has always been a top issue for me. It was the reason why I ran in the first place. I wanted a stop sign on 15th Street. And guess what? When I think about running for mayor, nothing's changed. I still want pedestrian safety. I want stop signs on more streets citywide. So, if anything, I've kind of expanded out of the ward over these last 10 years. And I've always had Hoboken residents citywide in mind in every single thing that I do. And I'll give you one last example, which is, the traffic nightmare that we had in Southwest Hoboken with Rebuild by Design, right? Like I'm on that committee. It's chaired by Councilwoman Jabour, Councilwoman Ramos is in it, as well as parking and transportation. And when they told us initially that they were going to close Jersey Avenue for 5 months, 5 months, full closure of Jersey Avenue, I push back, right? I literally push back. I have tremendous experience in project management, know full well that they could run that project and still keep a lane open. And I fought tooth and nail on that. Ruben came in and was, a big cheerleader for it as well. Notably, as I've said before, Councilman Jabour literally didn't say a word. And we fought and fought and fought and fought. And guess what? We got it down to less than 1 month for Jersey Avenue to be closed. That's not in my backyard. That's just common sense for the people of Hoboken. And it affected people all over Hoboken, but a lot in Southern Hoboken. So I'm always fighting for people in our community. And I have a lot of people across the city that support me and know that I have their interests at heart all the time.
We see it in our outreach all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the data and the numbers coming in, and broad support in every corner, and it's because of that sustained outreach that you've been doing over the years.
Yeah.
Um, so change pace a little bit. You've called for more transparency in city government. What is one specific reform you would implement to make Hoboken more accessible to residents?
Um, I think, first of all, I would just run every conversation differently. They would be more out in the open, more transparent, and not last minute, and not trying to, hide them in, hide legislative or big project decisions, in the summer months when no one's watching, and in last minute in December when everyone's away for Christmas. But I would say it really comes down to communication and transparency and engagement, right? So I would probably retrofit our next Nixle alert and have it be a little less on the propaganda side and a little bit more on just putting out information in a concise manner that is important to our community that they can rely on and trust. So that would be one thing. And the second thing would be really just the Hoboken website, right? The Hoboken website is completely unwielding. I know the city just put out a survey to get feedback from residents. I actually just think that, and it's great, and it falls through my committee, and it's something I've been supportive of from day one. But I do think that there's a system side of it. It's connecting the systems of the city with our website so that it allows people in the public to have access for information to get the answers that they need as quickly as possible, and also be able to provide feedback. We've have not had an effective Hoboken 311 system where people can provide complaints in a really long time, and we really need to do that. So I think those are probably the areas that I would focus on that would move the ball down the field pretty dramatically in terms of accessibility and transparency.
Plus, you just had the policy document you came out with, which again, people
Yeah,
should go to the website and
yeah,
read. It's
yeah.
a banger. All right. Uh, Last question.
Mhm.
So, why now? What changed between your previous years in the council and this moment that made you decide that you're ready to lead the entire city?
Um, I would say the difference between where I was when I first ran and where I am now is I have a much better understanding of the operations of the city, and I have a much more developed sense of public service. It's become kind of who I am in a way that I wasn't prepared for. Like giving back to my community, serving my neighbors is the strongest it's ever been. And but when I think about this moment, the moment is an open seat, right? It's a mayor who's leaving office. What he's leaving behind are a lot of amazing projects like Rebuild by Design, a lot of like environmental anti-flooding, some improvements on Vision Zero, which are great. So we need someone who's familiar with that to carry them forward, and no one's more familiar than either one of those than me. Um, but we also have a lot of challenges. We have quality of life issues. We have way too much traffic, like scheduling of projects that, all at the same time. People are losing their mind right now. We have affordability issues, projects that are not getting done, and massive pressure on taxes. And, that and managing all of that really requires a certain expertise. And I believe I bring that, right? I have 23 years in a finance career. Most recently, I was a CFO. I was an executive. I managed a team of, that had about 250 people, multiple different departments under it. And, um, and I just think there's this interesting alignment now between my living in Hoboken 31 years, being on the council, and having this developed sense of public service and residents first, as well as my private sector skills that are directly relevant, right? So that's how I think about the role. But how did I get here? It was an open seat. And suddenly my neighbors, when our mayor announced he was running for Congress, and suddenly the possibility he wasn't going to be mayor again, neighbors came out of the woodwork and said, "Are you going to run? Are you going to run? Are you going to run? Are you going to run?" And I hadn't thought about it, not that I was opposed to it. I hadn't really thought about it that much. I mean, I loved our city. And so what came together, connecting all those dots, was a lot of support, a need for the skills I bring, and, my pure love for the city. I've been here for so long, and my neighbors. And I just thought, now is the time. Right now is the time. And importantly, we need change, and we need a different kind of mayor. And we're not going to get that from my council colleagues that are running. We're just not going to get it. And so we've all earned the right to run. And I just think that, this is the time to do it and be able to, deliver a better Hoboken for Hoboken residents.
It's a
Sorry,
very,
deliver a better
very
Hoboken for
consistent,
Hoboken. Yeah.
it's a very
Sorry. So
consistent
anyway,
mindset that you
yeah,
have, that like public service mindset where you see a need and you step up, right? Like
yeah.
it started with the stop sign, there was a need, you stepped up, right? There was the
I would actually tell people to go to my city council website and like look at my last platform that was on there. Like, my platform hasn't changed, my commitment to public service, the local issues just haven't changed. But what has changed is, the our quality of life has changed, and what we really need is a new and different kind of mayor to kind of restore our quality of life. And I think that I'll be able to do that with a team, with Team Tiffany, the most experienced slate out there that I can't wait to get to work with. So
man, it is so inspirational to see all of you together, discussing the topics and the solutions. It's amazing. So that's unfortunately all the time we have for today. So we're gonna call it. But Tiffany, can you tell people where to find you?
yes, you can find me at tiffanyforhoboken.com, or you can email me at tiffany@tiffanyforhoboken.com, or you can call me or text me at 201-208-1674. Definitely go to my website. You can learn about everyone who's on Team Tiffany. You can see my policy platforms. My platform policies. There's only 3 on there right now, but they look back over the next few days. We're going to be adding another 2 or 3 probably by the end of Labor Day. So be on the lookout.
Yep, and the campaign is gearing up. So if you want to get involved, you heard from Tiffany today, are particularly inspired and want a different kind of mayor, by all means, go to the website, sign up to volunteer. We'd love to have your help.
Awesome.
So that's
Thanks.
it for today. We'll see everybody next week.
All right.
Breakfast at
Thanks,
Tiffany's.
everyone. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.